Rumours surrounding the Nazca mummies have surged once again after recent claims suggested that not all of them are ancient remains. According to researchers who have spent years investigating the strange, three-fingered beings discovered in Peru, a small number of these entities may not only be recent, but may still be alive. This idea has sparked renewed interest in the long-standing mystery and raised questions about why certain authorities appear determined to restrict access to the original discovery sites. Those familiar with the case have pointed to sightings deep within remote cave systems, where witnesses claim to have encountered small, pale beings with elongated heads and tridactyl hands. These descriptions match the unique features of the Nazca mummies that were originally presented as ancient specimens. If even part of these accounts are genuine, it would imply that a surviving population of these beings has remained hidden for centuries in the desert mountains of Peru. Some researchers argue that this is precisely why the topic has been pushed aside and dismissed so aggressively. The possibility that a non-human species is still present is considered far more disruptive than the idea of ancient remains. This also aligns with allegations that teams have been quietly moving through cave regions, reportedly searching for something rather than simply studying old artifacts. Although controversial, the claims continue to spread because those who have looked deeply into the evidence insist that the tridactyl beings did not vanish long ago. According to them, they never left at all. They simply remained out of sight. The discovery of the tridactyl Nazca mummies has captured worldwide attention, and recent DNA evidence paired with unprecedented photographic documentation has provided insights like never before. For years, the strange remains uncovered near the Nazca region of Peru were surrounded by controversy, speculation, and skepticism. Now, however, the combination of genetic analysis, bioinformatics research, and advanced scanning techniques has transformed the discussion, suggesting that these mummies represent one of the most extraordinary archaeological revelations of the century. Researchers announced that preserved tissue, muscles, and organs remain within the mummified bodies. This degree of preservation is remarkable, considering the age of the remains, and has allowed for deeper biological analysis than had ever been possible before. Even more astonishing is the revelation that one of the specimens was pregnant at the time of death, offering unprecedented evidence that these beings lived, reproduced, and had distinct life cycles. The implications of such findings have forced scientists to reconsider long-held assumptions about human history and ancient diversity. One of the leading voices analyzing the genetic findings has been bioinformatics specialist Elena Hardy. She explained that she began her work attempting to disprove the notion that these beings' unique anatomy could be explained by genetics. She focused on polydactyly, a condition that causes individuals to develop extra digits, and investigated whether a mutation might explain the tridactyl hands of the mummies. She identified a mutation in a gene known as GLY3, which is associated with polydactyly. This offered a potential explanation, but did not account for the broader anatomical anomalies present in the Nazca specimens. Genetic testing revealed that the DNA from the mummies mostly matched human genetic profiles, though contamination and degradation, common with ancient samples, introduced challenges. Scientists extracted genetic material from both bone and muscle tissue using advanced techniques developed for fragile and ancient remains. Once isolated, these fragments were sequenced and reconstructed through bioinformatics tools, allowing researchers to cross-reference the sequences against terrestrial organisms. Some fragments could not be immediately identified, though further refinement suggested these too were likely from terrestrial sources. The conclusion was that the mummies were not fabricated constructs, but genuine biological entities with predominantly human genetic markers, albeit with mutations that remain incompletely understood. Among the most extraordinary of these findings is that of Montserrat. Unlike any specimen previously unearthed, Montserrat has offered researchers an unprecedented glimpse into the mysteries surrounding these tridactyl beings. Unearthed in the Nazca region of Peru, Montserrat's preserved body revealed evidence of a developing entity within, a fetus that displayed the same distinctive tridactyl traits that have come to define the Nazca mummies. The presence of this fetus has transformed the conversation, moving the discussion from questions of authenticity to questions of life cycles, reproduction, and the very origins of these beings. The tridactyl feature, 3 elongated fingers, remains the most defining characteristic of these specimens. Montserrat's fetus exhibited this same unusual structure, confirming that the developing body was not an unrelated anomaly, but rather a member of the same species. This discovery indicates that Montserrat was pregnant at the time of her passing, a revelation that provides remarkable biological insight. It not only demonstrates that these beings reproduced biologically, but also suggests that they existed as a population with the ability to sustain themselves, rather than isolated anomalies. Within months of their initial unveiling, researchers and discoverers testified before the Mexican Congress, presenting their findings to a global audience. Their testimony revealed one of the most striking pieces of data to date. More than 30% of the DNA extracted from the specimens did not correspond to any known species on Earth. This genetic anomaly sparked heated debate, but it also invigorated interest. While ancient DNA analysis is inherently complex, especially when samples are degraded, the consistency of the results across multiple specimens made it clear that the Nazca mummies represented something unusual. In Montserrat's case, the presence of fetal DNA offered a second layer of validation, as both maternal and fetal material demonstrated the same tridactyl traits and genetic anomalies. Adding credibility to the testimony was the work of independent researchers who conducted their own evaluations of the specimens. Their studies confirmed that the remains, including Montserrat, were authentic biological entities. The revelation that Montserrat was pregnant has been hailed as a turning point. For years, skeptics argued that the mummies could be manipulated or ceremonial constructions. The discovery of a fetus in the midst of gestation demonstrated instead that these beings lived, reproduced, and followed biological processes consistent with natural life. This makes it increasingly difficult to categorize them as hoaxes or misinterpretations. Rather, it suggests that they represent either an unknown lineage of humans or an entirely separate species, one that coexisted with or predated known Andean populations. Researchers from the United States have since joined the investigation, applying advanced genetic sequencing and scanning technology to the remains. Using non-invasive techniques such as CT imaging, they have studied Montserrat's internal structures in greater detail than ever before. These scans have confirmed the integrity of her skeletal system and the developing fetus within, further substantiating claims that these beings were naturally formed. Additional DNA studies are ongoing, with the goal of clarifying the origins of the genetic anomalies and potentially tracing connections to known populations. The implications of Montserrat's discovery are profound. If these beings were a previously unknown human variation, they would expand the map of human diversity and challenge current understanding of evolutionary history. The Andean region is already rich with evidence of unique cultural and biological adaptations, but Montserrat suggests that there may be entire populations still unrecognized in mainstream archaeology. Alternatively, if the genetic anomalies prove too distinct to connect with humans, the discovery could point toward a species unlike any recorded before. Some have even suggested the possibility of non-terrestrial origins, though most researchers remain cautious about such interpretations. Regardless of the explanation, Montserrat's pregnancy highlights one key fact: these beings were not isolated anomalies. They were part of a population capable of sustaining itself through reproduction. The fetus provides clear evidence of continuity, suggesting that these beings were not mere individuals, but members of a lineage. This realization changes the narrative from one of mystery relics to one of biological species, forcing the scientific community to consider how such beings fit into the larger story of life on Earth. The case of Montserrat also underscores the challenges faced by scientists in dealing with discoveries that defy established categories. History shows that anomalous finds often encounter resistance before being integrated into accepted knowledge. Yet Montserrat's preserved body, with its fetus intact, represents evidence too compelling to dismiss. The photographic and genetic records speak for themselves, showing features and anomalies that cannot be explained away by claims of fraud or error. Beyond genetics, the anatomical analysis has opened even more questions. Photographs and scans of the skeletal structures highlight significant differences from modern humans. Their rib cages display unusual shapes, the joint structures are arranged differently, and of course, their three-fingered hands remain their most striking feature. To some, these distinctions indicate rare genetic conditions, or perhaps evidence of an undiscovered population with unique traits. Others, however, have raised the possibility of ritual modification, pointing to known examples in which ancient civilizations practiced cranial elongation or other forms of body alteration for symbolic or cultural purposes. Still, the sheer consistency and integrity of the skeletal forms make it difficult to dismiss them as artificially modified. Advanced CT scans confirmed that the bones are cohesive and natural, rather than composites assembled from disparate remains. The scans also revealed that the anatomy extends throughout the body in a unified manner, supporting the idea that these beings lived and functioned as a complete biological species. For those open to more interpretations, these characteristics have raised the possibility that the Nazca mummies represent not merely an unknown human lineage, but something altogether different. Some speculate that they could represent beings not of terrestrial origin, pointing to their unique physiology as unlike any recorded in known populations. While most of the scientific community remains cautious in drawing such conclusions, the anomalies are undeniable, and the evidence continues to demand serious investigation. The pregnancy discovery has been particularly compelling. The presence of a developing fetus within one of the mummies suggests that this population reproduced biologically in a way consistent with humans. This revelation deepens the sense of mystery. How could a population so similar to humans in reproduction and genetic markers also possess such dramatic anatomical differences? The implications for anthropology, evolutionary biology, and archaeology are vast. The rediscovery and reassessment of the Nazca mummies have also highlighted the difficulties faced by researchers when encountering anomalies. Archaeology has a history of downplaying or even dismissing discoveries that challenge established narratives. Yet, in this case, the physical evidence has proven too robust to ignore. The scientific teams working on the mummies have called for open-mindedness, insisting that rigorous investigation, rather than skepticism or sensationalism, is the only way forward. Photographs released in recent months have shown the mummies with greater clarity than ever before. These images reveal details of their preserved skin, musculature, and facial structures, which appear humanoid but with subtle and consistent deviations. The level of preservation allows for extraordinary study. Yet unlike certain finds, the Nazca mummies present features that resist simple classification, keeping alive the debate about their identity. International interest in the specimens has surged. Multiple institutions have expressed interest in collaborating on further study, hoping to use even more advanced technology to examine the remains. Additional DNA sequencing, isotopic analysis to study diet, and paleopathological investigation to assess health and disease are all on the horizon. Each new test carries the potential to rewrite not just local history, but humanity's broader story. Some researchers believe the mummies could be linked to the ancient Andean civilizations, perhaps representing a previously undocumented group with distinct adaptations. If so, the discovery would profoundly expand understanding of human diversity in pre-Columbian South America. Others suggest the features point to something entirely new, a possibility that, if confirmed, would stand as one of the greatest anthropological discoveries of all time. What makes the current moment so pivotal is that for the first time, multiple lines of evidence, DNA analysis, anatomical scans, and photographic documentation are converging to confirm the authenticity of the mummies as genuine biological entities.